Hi YouTube, Creational Chris here, and I'm officially have gotten rid of the perfectionism, the need to feel like when I'm initially being called to start something new, that I almost have to physically exert so much effort when all that the universe is asking of me is to start. So welcome to my first official ever YouTube video. I'm just here really, initially, there's no intent behind it to use the videos that I post on here to evoke inspiration for you to explore yourself, for you to explore your creativity, and to most importantly, live a free life, which will boil down to what you classify as a free life. Nonetheless, I say that to say that to have no expectations of me, no fixating on the outcome of what this channel will be, because I don't even know. But I did want to start it off with a podcast to talk about a couple subjects. So we will be diving into spirituality, relationships, and last but not least, immersing ourselves into the unknown. Overall, this is my 2022 reflection, and that's what I wanted the title that I am going to name the video. It's just 2022 reflection, and it came to me a couple days ago as I was literally reflecting on how this year has went, and I end up saying to myself, it's so amazing, it's so crazy how much I lost this year, but I also gained. It's so crazy how much I lost, but I still gained so much through what I lost, and I just felt like an immense amount of gratitude for what I was, the feeling that I was experiencing in that moment of having that realization. And then I came up with the 2022 reflection, and that was going to be the idea of my first YouTube video. It actually came to me as I was on TikTok Live, and I was talking. And sometimes I go on TikTok Live, and if you know me, you know I do intuitive readings. So I was doing an intuitive reading, and then I drifted off and having a conversation with the folks that were on the live, and that thought popped up, and then I started chatting. And that's really all I do. I'm just here chatting, being vulnerable, expressing out loud the voices, what the voices in my head says and goes through. So I did write down some notes to keep me on track. I actually recorded this video yesterday, and I seen how much my mind was wandering, and then I kept worrying about if y'all can see me, but I know now I have the perfect setup. I'm also recording for my Patreon, where I post my intuitive teachings to go over astrological transits I find significant and interesting that I feel intuitively called to. I do monthly zodiac forecasts. And I'm also going to use it as a form to chat with them, or like downloads and insights that I get for the collective. I'm a part of that collective as well, and I just share with my members on there. So this is also, they get like the initial access until I finish editing this YouTube video, and then get on there. But let's hop right into this. Grab your tea, a blunt, whatever it is. Or if you're watching this in the morning, you know, play this in the background while you get those chores done, or you do your morning routine. Sit and chat like we're having. Just sit with me. I'm not gonna do too much, just sit with me. Get your cup of coffee, your drink, your breakfast. I have mine. And let's just vibe. Okay, but I did have a note to keep me on track, because sometimes my mind wanders and I forget what I'm talking about. Or I start leading off in a different topic, which I will say I do love conversations with people where you can jump from topic to topic, and no one's pissed off about it, and you can also, as you're jumping topic from topic, revert back to the original topic and resume the conversation like nothing just happened, like you just didn't jump from 10 different topics within one conversation. But I did write it to just have me in check, because I do be needing to be in check. So first and foremost, I wanted to talk about spirituality. I believe that spirituality is subjective, and I feel like nowadays we're seeing it be done in multiple ways, and like there's certain requirements, or at least people will say like you need to be doing X, Y, and Z. You need to meditate. You need to journal. You need to like no, those are just tools and resources. I feel like it allows you to connect deeper with those aspects of self. But essentially, I feel like spirituality is you building a relationship with yourself. It's you deeply getting to know yourself. It's you tapping into your authentic energy. That to me is what spirituality is. And that requires to build a relationship with yourself. What I learned this year, it requires you to do three things. That is to acknowledge self, to understand self, and then you accept self. And now when I'm saying self, this is everything that comes with you, the whole package. I realized what kind of started this awakening in my mind where I could not see nothing but truth. The rose-colored glasses shattered. It got thrown out the window, and I never wanted to put them back on. I realized how much society almost puts out trauma, almost tells us to suppress certain natures. Excuse me. I almost choked up there. Society tells us to like. I'm drinking Mullen tea. Okay, I am gonna go off topic. I'm drinking Mullen tea, and I'm realizing like the purpose of Mullen is to expel mucus. And if you wonder how a lot of people get sick, or you're constantly sick, ask yourself how many foods you consume that contribute to increasing like the mucus in the body, because sickness thrives off mucus. And the purpose of Mullen tea is to expel mucus. So sometimes I drink this and forget that that's the purpose, and then I start getting choked up. Okay, but also I think that was a reminder for me to slow down my talking, because I was talking about that yesterday, that I need to slow down my talk. Sometimes I realize I tense up a bit, or I get really, really anxious, and I start talking really fast. And it's like, slow down, my guy, you're good. So society, I'm sorry that like if y'all heard the snort, the little snort, sorry. Society almost projects constant trauma on a daily. We see so much on social media, sometimes even in person, or even like how people operate. That was another thing too. I'm not my trauma. I'm not gonna operate from that place that I once operated from, because that was all I knew. My trauma is not me. It's an experience, and it does take a lot of work to overcome it, for you to not allow it to dictate how you think, how you move, and deal with your emotions and other people and things of that such. We're constantly being told to, I feel like, suppress certain natures of ourselves. Think of like jobs that have people in uniform. And this is no hate, but jobs that have people in uniform tell people you can't have tattoos, you can't have piercings. Nonetheless, essentially, there's so many ways that I feel like we are told on a day-to-day basis to suppress certain natures of ourselves, whether it's how we communicate, what we talk, what we want to talk about, how we act, how we express, how we dress, how we create. And I realized the suppression that I was holding upon myself, that led me to a transformation. I can't say that I was ready for it, but I believe that the universe knew that it was time for me to step up to the plate. So yes, those are key factors, three key factors that I believe that contribute to you building a relationship of yourself. And that's what I mean. That's why I went into all of that, was to say everything pertains to self, how you move, how you act, how you think, and what's contributing to those things as well. What's contributing to the way you think? What's the key factor in the way you act, and how you behave, and how you deal with your emotions, and how do you do it? The three factors that you must utilize in developing that relationship with yourself is understanding, acknowledging. That's being aware that, okay, this is happening, or this is what I do, and this is how I act, and this is how I deal with this, or this has happened. Understanding, okay, why is it happening? Why do I do this? Why do I think that? Why do I treat myself like X, Y, and Z? Why do I allow other people to treat me like X, Y, and Z? And then it's accepting that, okay, regardless of what has happened or occurred, or the fact that I may have been moving in a way that doesn't really resonate with my soul, my spirit, I can accept the fact that it's happened, and then I can move accordingly. And then, of course, taking the much needed action to bring on the transformation. And I can give you the example of the suppression. It was realizing and being aware and acknowledging the ways that I kind of tried to, and so many factors contributed to that. Well, one thing I do want to know is accountability. It's important along the journey of building a relationship with self and bringing on great change. Accountability is realizing that you chose to be this way, whether you were aware of it or not. You chose to allow people to disrespect you. You chose to not stand your ground. You chose to not express yourself effectively. You chose. And accountability and acceptance almost go hand in hand. Accountability needs acceptance. So that way, not only are you bringing yourself the hard truth, accountability, but you can accept the fact that it has happened and that, you know, you can't go back and change it, but you can change how you move forward. What's it called? So that's what I was talking about. Giving y'all an example of that was I'm realizing certain natures of myself that I suppress, or growing up in like an environment that wasn't secure and safe for me. I realized how much I kind of like suppressed my voice. And I say now, I think that my voice is one of my most greatest gifts that I was giving. Just reflecting on me as a child and how I acted in school, and when I would really get to be able to have one-on-ones with people and have talks, how teachers were acknowledging me and how counselors were acknowledging me and saying like, you're really mature, or, you know, you express yourself very effectively. Like, I'm really quite surprised. And then I realized I couldn't do that at home. Wow. I just read this tea. So I love this brand, Buddha Tea, if I'm not mistaken, the brand that I got. That I purchased my tea. Yeah, Buddha Teas. It's literally right on there. If you want to sponsor me, let me know. But it literally says on here, they have like little notes on the tea bags, which I think is really cute and inspiring. It says, D is no time. Dear, I think they meant dear, but I'm not gonna say that. I think they meant, that's an assumption. But I think they just couldn't put space, so I'm gonna say it like that. There is no right time, there's just time. And it's so funny saying that, because I literally tweeted today of how, and this was the thought behind the podcast, how long I've like been putting off, but I trust in divine timing. That like, you know, things happen when they're supposed to happen. So I really try not to rush and beat myself up about things, but most importantly, I make sure I do act on them. And at least I can say I try. But I was saying, and I think I even mentioned this in regards to the video about perfectionism and feeling like something may require a lot of physical effort from you when simply the universe is wanting you to just start, and that goes into that. Because what I was realizing, feeling like things are gonna require lots of efforts from you and feeling like it needs to be completely perfect leads to procrastination. Always, at least for me. I'm like, bro, you're literally putting it off. And then I sit down and actually get myself to do it and commit to it. And then I'm like, yo, it took like 10, 20 minutes for me to do this. It took like a minute, but it's a learning process. It's all a part of the journey. And back to the 3 factors, I had to be aware of the ways that I suppress myself. And what caused it was understanding what caused this and why. And it's because I grew up in an unsafe environment where speaking the truth almost got looked at as confrontational, bad, and almost at times met with punishment. And that led to contributing me suppressing certain natures of myself, whether it was speaking up, whether it was expressing through the way that I dressed, through the way that I wanted to create. It can lead into so many different factors, and I had to understand that. And during the process, I feel like, of understanding, Like that, the line between understanding, like you move from acknowledging, which is being aware that, okay, you do this. Then you get to understanding, okay, why is this happening? To find the line between understanding and accepting, between that, within that process, I feel like you need to be more, like, that's when you're being also, spirit, I feel like tests you to see how much you are compassionate and nurturing towards yourself when you are learning these hard truths. Because society, I feel like, also teaches us how to guilt. We have like a lot of guilt and shame around things, and people also don't know how to take other people things that they would normally feel like guilt and shame, and someone shining light and embracing it. So, a big part of that process is learning how to be nurturing and loving and compassionate towards yourself as you're grasping these hard truths. So that's a part of the understanding process and acceptance. And then accepting is just realizing that it's happened, and the best thing that you can do is, with the knowledge that you now have, is move differently. And that's literally what my everyday life looks like. I feel like as humans, we're constantly going through transformations, and not everybody steps up to the plate to make change, because some people don't want to put in that work. Some people don't. I can't say everybody wants to do the work. I can't say that everyone has what it takes. Nah, I think everyone does have what it takes, but not everybody wants to do the work. And I feel like people who don't want to do the work, usually further down the line, are met with regret on how much they've sheltered and limited and constricted themselves, with not wanting to face certain things, not wanting to take certain risks. There's a risk in building a relationship with yourself. There's a risk in getting to know yourself at a deeper level. It takes risk. Just want to look at my notes. Yeah, I think I pretty much touched on. I want to be really vulnerable with you guys, and I really want to dive into these topics very in depth, and I really don't want to leave any space. But this is a podcast, so I can always touch back. Y'all can also comment down below. I would love to create like an interactive community where we actually talk and connect with each other. Yeah, tell me also what would y'all like me to talk about. Next part of my spirituality was something that I had to really connect with, and like I said, developing that relationship with yourself is you acknowledging every aspect of self. You are whole, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And the part that came with the spiritually, which I think as a child I was very tapped into, but I never really, I was tapped into it deeply as a child. And you know, kids aren't like, oh, this is spirituality. Like, we don't even have the words to name what we're feeling. We're just like, oh, we're just experiencing, like, this is normal. Like, I used to have outer body experiences, and I would have like these dreams of people in my everyday life, and like sometimes even predicting the future. And I didn't quite like grasp it fully, of like, that's a gift in itself. And I didn't really quite grasp it fully. And I think when you're acknowledging yourself spiritually, you develop a sense of understanding and awareness that there is something much greater than this, or much more than this, or there's things outside of almost what we that's the word I want to use. There's things outside of our senses. I feel like being so attached to the material plane, we're so focused up on what makes sense and what we can see and what we can hear. And what about the things you can feel but you can't see, or you can hear but you can't see? You know what I mean? Like, and that's the intuition. That's getting out of the mind, and I feel like being too attached to the material and more into the body, more into the soul, more into the spirit. And you're allowing yourself to be opened up to a completely different realm that exists just outside of the five senses. It's like your sixth sense. And I was really tapped in as a child, and I kind of disconnected. I would say I disconnected right when I got to middle school and got to high school. And I didn't get back into it till literally probably like last year, when I started taking note of my dreams. Or 2020, let me say 2020. Where I started taking note of my dreams. And I did follow kind of like these like rules of like journaling and sage and Palo Santo, and like I have my own oracle cards where I read myself, and I think everyone should grab oracle cards or learn tarot and pull on your energy. Learn what energy, like, and it's a form of art because that is like storytelling based off of moving through your intuitive system, and pull your own energy and see the vibe that you give off before starting your day. And I think that's beautiful. I try not to be too dependent on it. Before, I was really like, when I was really deep on connecting with myself, I was journaling every day. I was doing yoga, and yoga came to me intuitively. No one ever taught me. I just felt the need that I needed to get this energy that was moving through my body and channel it out in different ways. So I started expressing myself through different mediums, which had led me to stop holding over this role of being a perfectionist over myself and what I do, which here goes the building a relation with self. I had to be aware that I was doing so, understanding where that came from, which came from a parent of mine, feeling like you just either have to have experiencing something or you have to be completely good at it if you think you should embark on exploring that. And spirituality taught me, no, you don't. You can explore things just to explore them. Have different outlets of creative outlets. You can have different creative outlets just to channel out different energies. Sometimes you may be stuck in one creative expression, but that don't mean like to not try a different avenue. And who knows, if you do try a different avenue of creative expression, that it doesn't release the blockage you're having in the one that you're currently experiencing. Spirituality taught me to not limit and restrict myself to what society would normally tell us to limit and constrict ourselves to, what society would tell us to follow, what society deems to us what that is. See how I'm talking so fast? It taught me not to constrict myself, not to limit myself, not to follow the path that society deems as normal, and to take my time and truly be patient with self. And that goes into me constantly saying how patience is an act of self-love. And it's one of the most greatest lessons that it taught me. And that's actually what yoga taught me. Because before, I was attempting to learn how to stand on my head and do X, Y, and Z poses. And I busted my ass quite a few times. But yoga taught me patience. And how patience is an act of self-love to continue to keep trying and committing yourself to something. And while doing so, even though it may not be easy, but you are nurturing and you're compassionate during your process of learning, that's patience, that's love. Back to the second aspect of spirituality that I connected with, going back to dreams. So as I got into these routines and ways that I was connecting myself, from journaling to yoga to reading my own cards to taking like at least 5 minutes of stillness. I feel like there can be misconceptions for people when it comes to like meditating. I feel like meditating is such an energy resetter. It's amazing. It brings clarity. It brings insight. And people get so focused on like when you do try to sit through stillness, the chaos that wanders and now you tune into in the mind. And it's like, that's going to happen regardless. But the focus is for you to observe that. Don't throw yourself into it and be like, I'm supposed to be meditating and sitting in stillness, but my mind is wandering through X, Y, and Z. That's completely okay. And it's good the fact that you're aware of that, but just observe that and allow it to pass by. And just like a TV show. No one will allow yourself to be consumed by it, but allow it to pass by, like how when you're watching your favorite TV show and then it goes through the ads and all these commercials and you can kind of just tune it out. Like, you know it's there, but you can tune it out till your show comes back on. That's how you have to do. And people think that you have to sit down for 30 minutes, an hour. Like, no. Start with 5 minutes, 3 minutes. Then work yourself up to 5, then 7, then 10, then 15, 20, 30. And I guarantee you'll be sitting down for an hour meditating. And it's because you're being patient with self. And also, you're not setting these huge expectations, because 10 out of 10, things don't require such, once again, physical effort that we deem it does. But we have such huge expectations of ourselves, and that requires us to never start something that we actually want to kind of experience or just explore. And that's another thing spirituality taught me, that society almost, I feel like, shames is us exploring the soul. And that's the next one we're going to get into. So I'm going to hold off on that. But last year I just really got in tune with my dreams and out of the mind, more into the body and what I feel. And another part that comes with that is trust. And to be able to trust yourself, you love yourself. I'm gonna say that. And that journey, it's all part of the journey of life, and it's not an easy one. So I don't want nothing that I'm saying to be easy. I'm talking through experience, through the chaos of going through the chaos of my mind and going through the chaos of dealing with other people, going through the chaos of loss. As I was understanding these very significant lessons, trusting myself is an act of loving myself. And that requires me to go through with certain decisions and release fixating on the outcome and focusing on the expectations of what I hope to happen, but to just really get more into the doing of things and being with it, like doing things just because I want to do it and that's why. And I don't need to answer questions like, what are your angles? And what I just want to express. The end goal, hopefully it invokes a change and inspiration in the next person. I don't really care about anything else outside of that. Hold on. Okay, it was still recording. I don't know why. Like my laptop is even turning off when I am recording. That threw me off. I was like, hold on. I hope you didn't pause. But yeah, I started to write down my dreams. And this is when I was really tapping into a different realm again. I was starting to somewhat have those outs. And I say somewhat because I haven't fully, to be honest and say, I haven't gotten comfortable with being able to see those other realms. But I know it's out of the fear of what I normally don't see with my physical eye. And I have to work with my third eye and tapping into my imagination. And I think the third eye also can work with a sense of just faith in regards to your intuition, faith that you are protected in any realm that you exist on. And I'm still working on that and balancing that out because I'm like, what if I see X, Y, Z? Like, there's certain things that I want to see. And it's nothing of like, that has to deal with like, I just always expect I'm going to see some crazy shit because I used to have really crazy dreams as a kid. And it would just be so normal. And I think just getting back into it, I'm like a little bit eerie. And another part is trusting myself, which is the intuition, trusting how once again, out of the mind, more into the body, trusting my gut, trusting my decisions. I feel like that's all intuition, and that's something that I had to tap back into as I was connecting more with self, developing a relationship with self. This was also resulted in me going through a lot of loss when it came to my connections, when it came to, and we're going to talk about relationships, when it came to my connections, when it came to family. And these are certain hard truths and realizations that I was having. And I just had to set the fact I couldn't put back on those rose-colored glasses. Once I chose to see truth, and once I had put down the trauma and these ideologies and these beliefs that I kept upholding, which poured into the relationships that I had and what I was willing to tolerate and what I was willing to accept, it changed my whole dynamic. I'm gonna get into that when we go into relationship. But now let's hop into exploring the soul. That was one of the best things I think spirituality has taught me is exploring the soul. That goes into my expression and how I dress. That goes into what I create and how I create. That goes into how I take care of myself. That goes into how the energy that I stand on that's gonna speak for myself among other people meeting me. That goes into adventuring, travel, exploring self in different avenues that I may have not been comfortable in exploring self, sexuality, opening yourself up to different foods. Think of like, I mean, I know some people can eat the same food, but I realized the more I have explored with self, the more I was opening up to trying different types of food, learning different types of cultures, traveling without the sense of feeling like I need other people to travel, but to and that goes into intuition as well, trusting yourself, as I was saying. But like, I know a lot of people have a hard time like traveling because we feel like we need to travel with people. And that was one thing I feel like a lot of people, especially on social media, have seen that I've traveled a lot. And they're like, how do you do things by yourself? And I was like, I think the hard realization that I had was the fact that I did a lot of things and only felt comfortable doing with other people. And I came into this world alone. I'm gonna die alone. And why rob myself of the experiences that my soul is desiring, simply as the fact that I may not have people who want to do. And that's completely fine. Some people don't want to take the risks that I want to take. You know, do the things that I want to do. Open themselves up to explore the things that I want to explore. And I can't rob myself of the experience of not exploring that. Why would I disrespect myself in that sense? You know, so the best thing that I'm grateful that spirituality has taught me is exploring the soul. It brought me to a different level of freedom. As I started putting down the labels and detaching from my environments, because I think our environment definitely plays a part in how we contribute. Not contribute, it definitely plays a part in how we adventure and how we explore the souls and how we explore our desires, how we express ourselves. The environment meaning your family, the hometown that you're forever in, and that you constantly stay in, your workplace, and that realization that I wouldn't do certain things unless I was with someone or with a group of people sparked a whole transformation in me just doing a lot of shit by myself, going to the park by myself. That's when I really started to go out. And I was really connected with nature during that time. And during that sense, I realized how we're never really lonely. During the time that I just wanted to really spend time with self. And I'm not saying isolating myself, because the point of the hermit mode, the point of isolation is not to neglect yourself from the experience of the world, but it's to dive deeper into yourself. So take some time with yourself and dive deeper in developing that relationship with yourself. That's the point of hermit mode, so that you come back with a new perspective, that you come back with this new level of awareness, and you shine the light on it and you express it. So I was connecting deeply with nature, and that's when I realized I'm never really lonely. I have these strangers that constantly walk by. Like, I'm outside the park, like, these strangers, if I wanted to go up to them and have a conversation, I can't. The worst thing they can tell me is that they don't want to talk or leave me alone. The butterflies I find, because the birds chirping around me, the ants crawling through the grass. Like, I'm not lonely. The grass grazing upon my skin, the wind, you know, breezing past by, the water. There would be a lake, you know, the lake that I could witness, you know, across the field. I'm never really lonely. And that also gave me the confidence to travel and road trip a lot on my own. So yeah. But exploring the soul really brought me to a different level, a new level of freedom. And I started to explore my sexuality in a sense of realizing that growing up, I've always will be proposed with the question of my sexuality. I feel like I'm a guy who has very feminine mannerism, and I do feel like I have a very dominant feminine energy, but that doesn't, one, emasculate me, two, disregard the fact that my masculine energy exists. It definitely does. I just go about channeling the freaking the mullen. Like, maybe that was not a good idea. I should have just took my peppermint tea. What's it called? See how I just got thrown off? I was brought to a different level of freedom, fun, and sexuality. There we go. See, I had to go through the topics of like, what was I talking about, just to get back to the original conversation. I just go about channeling my masculine energy in a very different way. And I connect with men, but more so men who have like a very open mindset, or I realize I really connect with people who are like queer and in a sense. And I do feel like you can be queer and like the opposite sex in a sense. I feel like queer is a way of being for me. It's like a way of being that's outside of the norm that we're normally seeing. And I feel that you can be queer and what's it call it? You know, you can be queer and like the same sex, queer and like fucking anything. You can be queer and like no one. Let me not say anything, so that can be taken completely out of context. But you can be queer and like no one. But what I did wanted to say was, I do have a very feminine dominant spirit. And along my journey where I was actually exploring my sexuality and also trying to understand it, I feel like spirit, the universe drops you wisdom and insight, like physical representation of things that'll lead you to something that you were supposed to know, to some sort of information that you were supposed to grasp. And during that time, I was applying for a job and it had asked me my gender. And it was like male, woman, male, female, or two-spirit. And I was like, what is two-spirit? And I never heard of this before, but I felt like this connection to it once I read the words of myself. So come to find out it's a Native American term, and I am Native American, part Cherokee. And I have family who still resides where the tribe was founded and the tribe, the nation was created and founded and kind of where they live, which is in like the North South Carolina areas, the Carolinas. And this is a term of theirs as well, Cherokees. And two-spirit person is someone who you can be a male-bodied person, but you have a feminine dominant spirit, and you could be a female-bodied person but have a masculine dominant spirit. And these people were mainly looked upon with high regards. They were the peacemakers, they were the mediators, they were the healers, the teachers, the child care takers. If there was war, they were called upon to settle it, to get to some sort of middle ground. And they also had like this connection to the other realms, the spirit world, that allowed for them to bring in peace and harmony within their village or wherever they reside, to their people, to bring that information to their people. So it was just really interesting to learn about that during that time, that I was also understanding it. But ever since I was a kid, I was always proposed with this question of my sexuality that I just didn't have an answer to, nor did I really care to know. And I was always be asking, I'm like, why are y'all asking me this? One, I feel like if I'm not having sex with you, you do not need to know. Two, why is that even of importance of getting to know me of any sense? Because believe that's like one of the last things that I really want you to know. So I realized as I started connecting with myself and developing this relationship with myself, I always just been in the unknown, but society will make you feel like you have to pick and you have to fit yourself in a label to make sense to other people, so that way you kind of know what you are. But I feel like sexuality is something that is constantly changing. It's like a weight scale. I could be 155 pounds today and I'm 157 tomorrow. Like, who knows? So something that's constantly changing is very fluid. Same thing with gender. Very fluid. Gender is your outward expression. It's very fluid. So I feel like to constrict and limit myself to one aspect, to one either make sense to myself, not to myself, but to make sense to other people. And if I feel like I am trying to make it make sense to myself, it's because I feel like society puts that on me and puts that on us. And once I had that realization, I was just like, I don't have no labels. I like what I like, and sometimes that's no one. Sometimes that's just me. Sometimes it's my friends. And that has nothing to do, you know. Kind of just really don't know where I was going with my friends. But no, sometimes I like no one. Sometimes I just like me. Sometimes it's men, sometimes it's women, sometimes it's both. It's something that's constantly changing, but I just like what I like, and it's more so developing that emotional connection first. Most importantly, But nonetheless, I was like, I'm not going to restrict myself to a label to make sense to anyone. Because all it makes me feel is that I'm limiting myself and putting myself in a box and saying you can't expand beyond that and you can't change this. So I stopped doing that, and that was the kind of realization, that was the truths and the lessons that I was learning as I was exploring my sexuality. As well as, like, I feel like when it comes to the physical act of sex, one, a lot of people don't know how to please, and then maybe this will be a topic in one of the next podcasts. A lot of people do not know how to please. And being in such a high-paced, fast society where we're constantly doing, people confuse moving with quickness, doing things so quickly and fast with pleasure. No. Connect with sensuality. That does not also negate the fact that, you can be rough, you can go fast, but go through the motions. Yeah. A lot of people don't really know how to please because they're so focused and fixated on the end game, the outcome. And there was another realization that I had, and it slipped my mind. Maybe it'll come back, but we're gonna go off into relationships. And first and foremost, what I do want to talk about as we dive into relationships is that intimacy can exist within your platonic connections. Please stop being a weirdo. Please stop being a weirdo. Hug your friends, kiss your friends, love on your friends, tell them that you love them, cook with them, cuddle them, massage them. Bombard them with love. Stop being a weirdo. And another part that I had to realize when it came to that was I also had to put down some trauma. And trauma was to me was thinking that love had to be so hard. Love was almost, I kind of want to say that pain existed with love, like they coexisted. And I've actually been reading the book, and it's funny how it's the first one that's on my shelf here, all about love. And it talks about how love and pain and love and abuse cannot coexist. So if you are experiencing either or, you are not being loved. That book will have you going through the motions, okay? But that changed, that sentence alone, I read that, changed my perspective on a lot of things that I experienced with familiar trauma and even with my platonic connections. Love and pain, love and abuse cannot coexist. So that will have you not tolerating certain things anymore. But I think I witnessed in a home how love is associated with pain and almost rarely expressed. This had me going through the realization how I'm very weird at being affirmed. And it makes me feel awkward, and it's because I was never really affirmed at home or as much by those that I constantly surrounded myself with. And not only that, this is why it's also hard for me to affirm others. Not to say that I don't. It's almost like I always go through this thought process of like, how are they going to take it? Is it weird? Are they going to think X, Y, and Z? It's like, no, you can express that. That's love. And you can affirm just essentially to affirm. It doesn't have to have such huge attachment to it. I can say I love you to a complete stranger, and there does not have to be this huge attachment. We don't have to go and have sex. We don't have to go and form this relationship. I love you for simply existing, for simply being here with me. I love you. But intimacy and romance can exist within your friendships. Stop being a weirdo. And it's so sad that I feel like as I had gone through the loss of so many connections and with people that I was friends with from elementary to middle school to high school to even college, and I had to really get rid of the fact that loyalty, not even loyalty, but the length of our friendship does not determine anything. Like you can meet someone within the time span of 2 days and they can make you feel something your friend for 10 years never made you feel, or treat you in a way your friend for 10 years never treats you, or reciprocate the energy of a friend that you've had for 10 years never gave to you. And it took for me to actually go out and meet new people. before I realized that, wow, I just saw 4444. It took for me to go out and meet new people before I was brought to a different level of intimacy and romance that existed with the friendships. Cooking with my friends, cuddling with my friends, being kissed by a friend, dance with a friend. I remember being on the beach with a friend. We went and drove down to the beach at like night. It was nighttime too. And we played music. We just simply vibed. We played music, learning each other's love language, having the in-depth conversations, having those deep conversations to be able to understand each other and have someone willingly be understanding to you and accept you, unconditionally understanding, accept you as love, as intimacy. And but going back to the friend, I remember we going to the beach and like we were doing yoga on the beach one, and then we started dancing. And then we were dancing, we had music playing and we were dancing around. And it, like, yeah, I was getting so hyped. Like, I see you were dancing around. And, like, I think we ended up coming across, like, two strangers who ended up dancing with us as well, too. They were like, y'all all right, lit, y'all all right, bye. And we had, like, snacks. And it was, like, a little picnic. And it was a date with my friend. And it was beautiful. But it took for me to go meet new people, for me to experience that. And then it changed my perspective on the friendships that I did have. And then I felt like there were certain things that I was also attempting to bring to the table that just felt like I was being viewed as weird. Like, I feel like people, like, you can't hold your friend's hands without someone on the outside looking at them like, oh, they're dating. And that brought me to also to, like, I question myself too, even though I'm not in a relationship and I'm completely single and dating myself. Until I find someone that I can grow in every aspect with, we can grow with each other and we can support each other in our individual goals and even come together to pour into something as one, I will continue dating myself. What's it called? I question myself, like, if I was in a relationship with someone and they experience romance and intimacy with their own platonic connections, would I allow their friends to hold their hands, the person I'm in a relationship with? And I was like, yeah, like, that's completely fine. We can hold hands. Y'all can hold hands. Like, I would love for you to experience intimacy and romance outside of our relationship. You know? Not definitely talking about the physical act of sex, but like, and hug your friends, cuddle your friend, kiss them on the cheek, whatever the case may be. Hold hands. Society's not used to seeing that without attaching these heavy emotions with it, which can be jealousy, which it could be just jealousy or envy of some such. I'm exploring that within my platonic connections and most importantly within myself. But yeah, it took for me that realization to go I had that realization once I put myself out there to meet new people. And these new people were proposing it to me, and that was another thing that made me look at my connections that I already had, was how much I had proposed and gotten so used to initiating. I, one, felt very uncomfortable when it came to someone else initiating something for me, but nonetheless, how I felt like the energy never was reciprocated for someone to plan something for me. Not plan something for me, but just to plan something in general and want me to be a part of it. A date, a picnic, a movie time. You know, a movie date, a lunch, a dinner. So, I'm trying to think but no. Explore intimacy and romance within your platonic connection. Stop being a weirdo and stop robbing yourself to experience love on every aspect. Please. Please, 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 please. Now I'm gonna hop into like platonic connections a bit and like what I learned this year about them. Let me just go through my icks, my pet peeves that I've realized that there's just certain things that I just cannot tolerate and cannot allow when it comes to forming new friendships and also within my existing ones. I do not tolerate a cheater. And I cannot tolerate someone who lies over the simplest, littlest things. Now, that's how I'm into the cheater. I realized, like, people want to say, like, that's none of my business. That's none of mine. Like, what they do don't have nothing to do with me. And it's just like, no, that's just a character flaw to me. And that's my personal opinion. It's a character flaw. If you can do someone that you claim you love like that, I just wonder what you could do to me. And it's just ethically just ill. It's ethically just wrong. So when I realized that I was accepting that, it was just like, ooh, like, I wonder what I'm really tolerating. And how can I tolerate that within someone else, but I wouldn't even tolerate that for myself? And if it was being done to you, I wouldn't want you to, I wouldn't even just, that was another thing too. I don't like that. When someone I just know is being done wrong. And it's just like, if I knew someone was doing it to you, you could have been a hole in the wall, stranger around the corner. I would want to know. And if it was me, I would want to know. And I would want you to know. So, like, I can't tolerate that. And essentially, like I said, it's a character flaw. And I could wonder if you're doing that to someone you claim you love, what you're doing to me. Another thing, too, I do not tolerate people. And it was so funny. I was just learning about this yesterday, how this topic got brought up about narcissists. The thing that they do is triangulation. This happens with narcissists, and this also happens when you're forming a toxic relationship with someone. Triangulation happens when there's 3 people in a group, usually, or maybe just, let's say, a group, but one person communicates with one person about, let's start with 3 people. Person A talks to person B about person C, and person A's bashed from person C. Did you see how they did this and did it? Oh my God, like, what the fuck is wrong with it? Did you see the post that they just made? Like, what were they thinking? Like, what were they doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then person A may go talk to person C about person B, doing the same thing that they were just doing. So 1, has no loyalty, but 2, it usually comes with a lot of gossipy energy. And it wasn't until what I was going to talk about in regards of my platonic connections and things that I learned. I cannot be with someone, and I don't care if I'm friends with the friend, but you cannot be friends with someone and then talk about them to me. I don't care how long you know me or what our relationship, or if you claim my relationship to be, or if you is more significant than the one of the person you talk to me about. But once again, you're talking about someone you claim to be as a friend. To me, I wonder what you're doing to me behind my back when you're not in my presence. And then also too, it's an ick of mine of when I am in friend groups and someone is talking about one of the people in the friend group that isn't physically present. If we're spending quality time together, all I care to know about is me and you. All I care about sharing and caring about getting to know. I do not want to hear about anybody else in our friend group unless it's a simple, general, like almost like quickly, have you talked to such and such? How have they been? How are they doing? Okay, great. That's amazing. Wow. Keep it pushing. Let's get back to the main course, like we're in each other's presence. I just think it's such an ick. And it's like, it makes me raise my eyebrow when I just see someone talk about someone within the friend group that's not present. You could be doing something so much better than with your time. Not to say that what you could be bringing up is negative, but it just gives me a weird vibe when someone's not present and someone's constantly talking about them. So that's something that I'm very mindful of now, but definitely an ick of mine, definitely a red flag in forming platonic connections is when someone talks about a friend to me. I'm gonna just what you could do when I'm just not of your presence and you go back to talk about the friend. And once again, it's just a character flaw. It's simply a character flaw. Sorry, I have not eaten at all. Off topic. I feel like you really don't need breakfast. Actually, you don't need breakfast. As I dive more into my body, I realize sometimes I completely enjoy I feel like we consume too much. And maybe a U.S. thing. I feel like I heard that too in the U.S. Like someone traveled and was like, Americans eat like pigs or something like that. It made me think of like how we massively consume. And this is like when I realized how like I would go and order out at some places and don't really finish my food, and then I bring it back home and I don't even finish it at home either. I quite enjoy having my first meal at 3 p.m. Or just 1 or 2 meals a day. Completely fine. That also requires me to get more into the body. And this will probably be a different topic for another video. I'm not even gonna go into that, but how sometimes too, like you follow and trust more in your body and you get more into the body. If you listen to it, sometimes the body's telling you to eat at 3 p.m. Or we can skip out on breakfast. We'll eat, during the evening. Or you just know too, I want breakfast, lunch, and dinner today. Or sometimes too, like my diet is very weird. Sometimes it just revolves around fruit. Like I remember one time I ate kiwis for dinner. I was completely full. And sometimes when I'm eating like grounding, I notice that my body craves meat. Like I can eat meat. Like I will devour some. And I'm also getting some grounding when I'm getting too into like my spiritual routine and too much into the spiritual aspect of self, and I need to ground myself into the material. Meat. Back to platonic connections though. Yeah, those were just things that I was realizing amongst platonic connections. A little bit like it's the character flaws. Those are little Icks or red flags that I just had to be mindful of. And I was turning a blind eye to it. And essentially, it wasn't until I feel like I was being faced with that experience of what these friends were doing to these other people that I realized, like, I can't accept this at all. I can't accept this in general. And that's how it usually is, like, when you're at the stakes and you realize, I shouldn't have tolerated that from jump, and I should have said something from jump. Another thing too that I was realizing that like growing up in such a violent household that goes into a home that I can't even say home, a home that didn't really provide much safety and security. I associated conflict with fighting and also being brought into schools. My upbringing, I was put in a lot of schools where have so much thoughts going through my brain right now. Going back to triangulation real quick. How you also know that this is occurring, this is a toxic relationship where you're dealing with a narcissist, they try to pin you against like these people. This could be a parent too. Like one of the examples this lady gave was that this could be a parent getting 2 siblings to fight. Pinning you up against your siblings. This could be 2 friends wanting to see you fight. Pinning you against each other. That's when you know you're experiencing triangulation. Another topic that I'm going to revert back to before I dive back into platonic connections was exploring the soul. And I just lost, literally. It felt like it just got snatched. I was just having a thought about exploring the soul because there was something that I learned this year in regards of exploring self that really taught me a lot, and maybe it'll come back to me. But in regards to platonic connections, it wasn't until I was literally put at this state to where I realized I couldn't accept this and I couldn't tolerate this. I feel like what I wanted to just mention was coming back, and it's not coming back. So we're gonna move on. And if it does, I'll bring it back up. And it wasn't until I was met with the experience that I was like, you should have said something. You shouldn't have tolerated this. And you could have spoke up. And that goes back into understand those relationship with self, acknowledging, understanding, acceptance. And I associated the conflict, just approaching conflict. Even though I realized though, and teachers have noticed this to me as well, that I always had no problem addressing and communicating. There would be points where I just would associate conflict with immediately fighting or arguing because that's how it was represented in my household, it was represented in sometimes some of the people that I was surrounding myself with, and I was like, it would just be like, do I really want to bring this up? Do I suppress it? Do I not talk about it? But then usually when something constantly eats me up, I have to put it out there. I have to just address it, because the worst thing that can really happen is that um, it does turn into an argument and a fight. And when something's eating me up badly, at times I'm willing to take that risk and approaching it regardless of how it may end up. And that goes into releasing. A lot of times you'll find yourself being more bold when you release expectations and fixating on the outcome. Another thing too that I realized, that I had to really release my people pleasing tendencies, and I think I also wrote that down too. People pleasing tendencies and standing my ground, because I'm not someone that you can put in a box. I'm not an ordinary person. I'm not this ordinary being, and I'm an astro nerd. I have a 9th house stellium. I have a 5th house stellium. Those are both Sagittarius houses. No, not Sagittarius houses. The 5th house is actually... No, I didn't even bring it up. My Sagittarius is in the 5th house, but I have a Sagittarius stellium, and I have a 9th house stellium. Nonetheless, I am all for freedom. And I don't like being put in a box. I don't like being... feeling like I'm limiting myself or someone else is limiting me. So I have allowed other people to kind of put me on a pedestal, when really it should have been themselves that they put on a pedestal. But I allow people to put me on a pedestal and have such high expectations of me that I almost constantly kept performing, because it was almost expected to me, and I almost got used to fitting into this role. And also, again, exploring the soul brings you to a different level of freedom. I had to step out of that. Stepping out of these roles, and that made a drastic turn in regards to my connection, because I had to once again reintroduce myself, and that's what I do a lot in regards to these platonic connections, and even family connections. Like, I'm reintroducing myself. Like, no, I'm not always a therapist friend. I want to party. I'm not always a therapist friend. I want to just chill and relax and completely just say nothing. Sometimes I want to say everything. Sometimes I want to do X, Y, and Z, and sometimes I don't want to do what I was doing yesterday. Like, don't fit me into these norms. I don't want to fit into these norms, these roles, or into these boxes, because that's maybe something that you do. And that was something I had to reintroduce once I had explored the soul and come to these new level of awarenesses. And something that I do want to mention is that I realized, as I feel like to reach these new level of awarenesses, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, you almost have to be met with drastic change. And everything is normally, I feel like, neutral. It's just that us humans, we attach the emotions to it, whether it's good or bad. So that's where we attach such negative feelings to experiences or positive feelings to these experiences. And what's it called? I just be going, and sometimes I just lose it. Things are neutral, and we attach either negative or positive emotions to it. But I do feel like we have to be brought with these drastic changes to be met with a clean slate. A clean slate, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, or mentally. To have that new perspective on life again, to start again, to try again. You almost have to be met with some sort of drastic change that just alters your perception on just life in general. And I was realizing that, I think I was having a conversation with a friend, and I don't think without, and it's normally those dark periods we're in, those negative feelings, those negative experiences we're experiencing, where we are being brought that clean slate. You lose the job, and now you can't keep going back to the job because you're realizing how much you're neglecting your spirit, your soul, and your authentic energy. You can't go back to the same connection. You can't go back to this relationship. You can't go back to the same mindset. That you're met with the drastic change of essentially growth. and you reap the rewards of the change. I feel like when you shine the light on those dark periods. And I was saying that, like, I'm big going back into, I mean, I already talked about relationships. I'm big on now forming relationships where all aspects of self can be accepted. I need unconditional acceptance, and I'm working on unconditionally accepting, and I need that reciprocated back to me. I want a relationship where my shadow self can exist, my light can exist, my higher self can exist, and my lower self can exist. And people that I'm surrounding myself with are understanding of it. People that I'm surrounding myself of it, surrounding myself with, are accepting towards it, are nurturing and compassionate, are loving towards those aspects of self. So I'm not interested in forming any relationships where I have to suppress or hide or neglect certain aspects of self. It's a no-go. Because I feel like that plays into people pleasing. It goes into people pleasing and you suppressing yourself. And the root of that is just simply trauma that makes us think that we have to do such things. And the dark and the light, that's what I was saying. The dark and the light was, I was having this conversation with myself, and then I was talking about it with a friend. I feel like the dark is where the magic is being conjured. It's being stirred up, it's being created. And the light just shines. The light is just you express it, and light is just things that we can see, we can hear, and touch. So it's you expressing what you conjured and created in the darkness. When we're at such low levels, it's where we're being met with great wisdom. When we're in the light, we're really just sharing it. With the darkness is when you're really like, you're the student. You're the student of what you're experiencing. And also a relationship that I've learned to develop this year is with money. My relationship with money changed. And how I went about pursuing money and making money changed. Another thing, I feel like my thing is so high, like my skirt is rising. I had so many things change around money. One was realizing I lack nothing. I have exactly what I need. We all have exactly what we need to start to create and to bring in the abundance that we can bring in at this time. And once you realize you have exactly what you need at this present moment to simply start, and you start moving, you didn't allow for more to come in. But you must express that gratitude for what you do have. And gratitude allows for a portal to be open of harmony for things to come in and take shift, and most importantly, bring in balance. So I had to really let go of the lack mindset and turn in an abundance mindset to realize I lack nothing. I have everything that I need. Okay. And the fact that there may be things that I do want that I just don't have now yet doesn't mean that it's impossible. It doesn't mean that it's out of my reach. It doesn't mean that I can't or won't get there or achieve it. So that played this huge part, but also realizing a generational curse of mine is realizing how many people in my family devoted themselves almost unhealthily to money, constantly working and overworking ourselves. It's so crazy to run times where I really sat back and relaxed and tuned into myself and more into my body outside of the mind, because the mind will have you working 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs and feeling like you have to get up and push every single day. And the body's telling you to relax. You have nothing to worry about. So many times that I just sat back and relaxed, somehow magically a bill got paid. Somehow magically I'm met with a freelance gig, an opportunity of some sort. You know? And we have to stop pursuing things from the lack mindset. Pursue things from curiosity, from joy. Pursue things from passion. There's a card that I have, an oracle card that I have that says, passion's worth creating for, and then it changes and says, passion's worth creating from. Don't create for passion, create from it. And I hope that makes sense in the sense of being like, don't create for joy, don't create for, money, or not money, but don't create for joy, don't create for happiness, create from those things. That was another, I think that's another generational curse that I was breaking from my family is this constant overwork and burnout. Like, I've literally seen some of my family put themselves in the hospital due to overworking. Another thing too, I had to look at the notes. Another thing too, I had to realize that I learned when developing my relationship with money was releasing the attachments. People put almost too much high of attachment. They almost put money over themselves. You see how some people pursue money or even do the things that they do to make money. It's almost like there's this higher attachment to money, and I had to release my attachment to money. It's not money that's making me have this experience. It's me. It's my own energy. So my energy is going to speak for myself, and that's what's going to allow for these opportunities, people. And this also outside of money. Your energy is what you are a mirror to the opportunities, people, places, and things that are going to reflect in your reality. So the energy that you are internally praising, internally working with, but also externally putting out is exactly you're going to get. So shout out to the people, pat yourself on the back, who've been doing the internal work. I love my people. I love the people who before focusing externally, they focus internally. That takes strength. It's not easy. So pat yourself on the back. But I definitely have to release attachment around money. So I'm looking at it as something outside of myself and as something higher than self. And realize it was my energy. It was always me bringing these opportunities. And when I turned over the lack mindset into an abundant mindset and released fear and adopted faith and hope, that I was able to land my first ever big model gig with no prior model experience. I was making $500 a day. And no one would have ever known during that time that I was out in LA modeling, and my flight was paid for, my food, like God, I swear God had me. My flight was paid for, my food was paid for, my expenses was paid for, my time was being paid for, I was being paid to shoot, outside of all those things being paid for. And I had no prior experience in modeling. No one would ever knew my phone bill was like 2 months past due. I was not allowing that to dictate anything. I was on that plane like, please don't turn off, because I need to stay in communication with these people. And I feel like God got me through that whole trip. It was like a 2-3 day trip. My phone stayed on still. But literally right after, as soon as I landed back, and I got back to the place where I was staying at in Georgia, I think like the day or within that same week, my phone cut off. And I was in communication with the people that I work with, and they were able to pay me a lot sooner than what was expected. And that went into learning just how to advocate and communicate for myself. It's another generational curse I do realize I deal with. Not even that I deal with, but I've just became aware of that. Like, it's something that's passed down on. So of course I have dealt with it. It's communication. And dealing with that has allowed me to stand my ground, speak up for myself, and also just advocate. Because I'm thinking like, are they gonna hate me if I tell them that I need this money for X, Y, and Z? I needed a bit sooner so I can pay X, Y, and Z when it's an invoice, so I'm not supposed to really get it till 30 days later. But no, I communicated and advocated for myself, and I got it like a week after. So yeah, it was. I really just hope when this thing goes out, it's still, I'm talking to my Patreon folks, that it's still catching on to what I'm saying. My screen goes black. Yeah, nobody would ever know. Phone bill like past due, but like 2-3 months on the verge of literally being shut down. I did have to pay like almost like over $500 just to get the phone bill back on. I was so irked, but I was so grateful that the fact that I had the opportunity to be able to even pay it in the first place. So I wasn't really mad. Diving into family now, the generational curses, like I was saying, one that I really realized that I've dealt with is communication. And I realized that like speaking the truth or just approaching certain things or wanting to address certain things have always resulted in an argument, had resulted in an argument or a fight or yelling and shouting, were met with such violence, kind of steered me away from wanting to communicate and express certain needs or ask for my needs to be met and ask for certain things that I did desire and require within relationships, it was that realization that just caused me to suppress in the form of not expressing myself verbally that made me want to do it so much without a care. And another thing that really contributes to all of the things that I'm talking about is I had to really reach a certain level of not giving a fuck of how I would be perceived. And that goes in with people pleasing, goes into hand in hand with wanting to be liked, especially by those people you do like. That saying alone just threw me completely off. But I had to reach a certain level of not caring how I was going to be perceived, not caring of what I was going to be met with, not caring about how someone would respond and react to me, but knowing and when I'm speaking my truth and I'm expressing it effectively, I'm expressing it calmly, and I'm expressing it with intent and no malicious intent, with no harm to no one, I'm good. That's all that matters, and I can say what I need to say. I just witnessed a lot growing up how communication has always been a problem. Communication, I feel like, is the number one problem to society and other families just outside of my own. Communication is a problem within relationships, with your partners or even your platonic connections. I think it's because we try to walk on eggshells a lot. And it also goes into developing relationships with people where all aspects of self have not been shown and have not been seen, which goes into suppression, which goes into the trauma that society, I feel like, puts out. That's something that they project as suppression. It's all a learning experience, though. All a learning experience. The last thing that I do want to end off with is immersing ourselves into the unknown. I feel like that's the period that I'm at. And what that looks like, the process, I feel like, of immersing yourself in the unknown, when you get to that unknown part, you most likely gone through the past and then the void. So there's the past, void, and then there's the unknown. Now the past is, I feel like, when we're constantly, this is how, I'm gonna give y'all a visual. This is how I was looking at it. This is how I was looking at it. I just had a thought of like a business idea and I don't know why that just came, but there's the past, the void, and the unknown. So to give y'all a visual, I can actually give a visual. Wow, I just answered the question to the business idea. Because I was like, I have the audio, but I don't have a visual. I'm recording myself. Y'all are gonna get the real time. Like, this is my thought process, this is mine, this is me. This is real, this is me. I'm exactly whatever she says. Excuse me. Toasted bread, almond peanut butter, agave, and bananas. Thank me later. Thank me later, literally. Now to really actually give y'all a visual now. Picture yourself, 3 mirrors on your left, 3 mirrors on your right, in the shape of forming a circle. There's you standing in the middle. The past is the left. In each mirror, the past is almost reflecting all the past experience you've had with self, maybe with career endeavors, maybe with things that may have not worked out or have gone the way they expected, and your relationships. Mirrors on the right are the unknown. I kind of want to give you a different visual. The mirrors on the right aren't the unknown. Let's say the mirrors on the right are still more past experiences. You in the middle is the void. And actually, let's say in these mirrors, there's an opening space for you. There's an opening space. I'm actually close my eyes and visualize this. So you're surrounded by mirrors, and right in front of you, there's an opening space that you can walk through. But to your left, to your right, and behind you, there's mirrors completely surrounding you. These mirrors are a reflection of your past experiences, showing you of how things have occurred in the past, whether it's from relationships, failed ventures, unfinished projects, doubt, fear, whatever emotions you're going through, whatever experiences that just essentially may have occurred of the past. You standing in the middle is you experiencing the void. The mirrors of the past, you standing in the middle, not moving, completely stagnant, as you in the void. The void, I feel like, is the process of us, we're in deep reflection. I feel like we're always going to constantly go through multiple stages of isolation, i.e. hermit mode, i.e. not a point where you should be neglecting yourself of experiences of life, but essentially where you dive and understand yourself at a deeper level. Now you standing in the middle, completely stagnant, as you're reflecting on all that you've gone through, but you're also including the feeling of the unknown. The unknown would be you stepping out. And let's say in front of you during within that open space is a road. Let's not even say a road. Let's say it's a tunnel. Let's change that. It's a tunnel and it's dark, but you see the light at the end of the tunnel. And let's say, what if that light, you know how people like to say like the tunnel's dark, and I think there's even a movie of this showing how like this guy's traveling through the tunnel and it's completely dark, and you really don't know what's bound to unfold as you make way into the tunnel. You make way into the unknown, but you just know you want to get to this light. You see at the end of this tunnel, you don't even know how long it's going to take you to get to the end, but you want to get to this light. What if I was to say that that light is the strength of your faith and your hope and your belief and whatever it is that you hope to achieve, hope to experience? It's the hope, it's the light, it's the faith. The light is the hope and the faith. That's how I meant to put it. But the void would be you simply just being like, you trying to take your past experience, you're trying to take these mirrors into this dark tunnel, but they obviously wouldn't fit. Or you obviously wouldn't be physically capable enough to carry these mirrors, right? It's too much, it's too heavy. The void is usually where we're in constant reflection and constant thought, but what I also feel like we start to confuse ourselves. Because we don't have an idea of what's going to unfold and the unknown. And that's why it's so important, those 3 key factors that I mentioned in regards of building a relationship with self. Acknowledge, understand, accept, and then you have to move accordingly with the information you have accepted. And those are the 3 keys I feel like to understand and really grasp as you're in the void and you're in deep thought, and you're in deep constant reflection, you're in deep reflection, you're in just having this constant, it's like a movie being turned on and you're literally watching how the last year went or the last 2 years went since you've been experiencing these great changes. And the light being your hope and faith to what you do desire to experience, what you do deserve, what you now know you're worthy of experiencing and having in your life. You take a step into the unknown and you don't know how things are going to unfold. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know what relationships you're going to form. You don't know what now career endeavor you're going to embark on, or what job you may be presented to have, or opportunities you're going to be able to explore, or how your mindset is going to change, and how you now deal with your emotions and express it, and how you connect with yourself spiritually. You don't know. And I feel like in that void as well goes into where I say like the illusions and stuff. You get caught up in an illusion. You start trying to create certain scenarios and it's like you can't even take that with you. Creating those scenarios won't even allow you to embark into the unknown. But you can also walk into the unknown creating illusions because you don't know. You simply don't know. And a big key factor, thing that I like to say is, as much as I do know, I realize I don't know. And that allows me the space to be a student. That allows me the space to start again, to try again, to explore new things. As much as I do know, I don't know. Okay? So, the biggest thing of immersing yourself into the unknown, I feel like, is learning that you're gonna go through that process, past, void, unknown. And as you get there, not even get there, but you're within that point. I think a big thing to realize, because I think as we're in constant reflection, we don't realize it, is that you can finally let go. Because usually when you're in the void, you've already let go of a lot. A lot has changed from your past experiences. You're not experiencing really the past. You can manifest it again. You can go back to it. But after all the work you've done, you usually don't want to do so. And you can realize within that period, I can finally let it go. It has happened, it has occurred, and that is acceptance. And I can move into this. I can bring change by moving into the unknown. With the things that I do want to take, with the knowledge that I do have, with the wisdom and insight that I do have. But that light is the hope and faith. That light is also you in such dark periods. When you are in those dark moments, you are in those dark spaces, or even in those spaces where you just don't know how things are going to unfold, is you completely expressing yourself, allowing yourself to be seen, allowing yourself to be heard, allowing yourself to be felt. That's also your light. I think I kind of really touched up on faith and belief. And it's also immersing yourself into the presence. That goes into not subconsciously, and also when you are consciously manifesting past experiences by constantly thinking of how things have occurred in the past. I feel like immersing yourself into the present moment, you need to be in some sort of blankness. You like, I don't know and I also don't care, but I'm just going to be doing what I feel called to do at this moment. I'm going to be expressing what I feel called to express, shining my light on what I feel called to shine my light on, and keeping the faith, the belief, and the confidence within self, knowing that I'm deserving of great experiences, knowing that I am worthy of having great experiences. Immersing yourself into the present, I swear, requires a level of just blankness of anything that has occurred. Not to say that you turn a blind eye, you neglect it, because in that sense I feel like you wouldn't have learned with it. It's like you could shine a light by sharing wisdom and insights on what you have experienced, but you don't go around calculating people's actions or behaviors or new risks that you may want to take, or new journeys that you want, new ventures that you may want to embark on with a past and old mindset that has, quite frankly, died out. It literally requires just like no thoughts, just vibes. Yeah, so the thing I wanted to say to kind of end it off, we are almost an hour and 30 minutes into this, and I'm actually quite satisfied with the way that I did this. I think I needed to just, once again, get rid of perfectionism and feel like I needed to exert so much physical effort into starting just this video, this podcast. And to see that all I was needed was for me to start, that the ball would just keep flowing and get rolling. I'm actually satisfied with what I just created just now. And that, to end off, do shit that makes you feel good. I want you to fixate and obsess over good shit, and good shit not only happening, but to come into your future, to come into your present moment that hasn't quite presented itself yet. I feel like society almost puts us in this space of constantly expecting so much negative things to occur in life. Even with the world, we don't really understand the power of how we contribute to the collective consciousness. And I have to order that book again. I have this book called Oneness, and it talks about the importance of how we contribute to the collective consciousness. And this can go saying, like, example, men ain't shit. No, men ain't shit to you. And I can't go adopting that ideology, because then I'm going to go and meet men who aren't shit, because that's the belief that I have. That also goes into Like with relationships, you need to be around people who almost. I don't want to be around people who have the same mind. I don't want to be around people who act the same as me. But definitely, we share similarities of beliefs and things of that such, because that plays a vital role, and that goes into me saying how you can pick up baggage from someone else, and you can be trying to heal something that was never yours to heal, and that can an example of that is being around someone insecure. When you are either combating insecurities and not really giving it much energy, or you don't deal with insecurity in regards of maybe what they're insecure about. Let's say insecurity about taking risks or taking a leap and believing in yourself. Hanging around someone who doesn't have belief will have you not believing in yourself, so you'll realize you'll never start, and that leads to regret in the future. But like I said, to end off, before I start chatting and ranting again, y'all know how I get. Expect good shit. Unexpected miracles, unexpected blessings. Just for unexpected good experiences, opportunities, connections, and moments to just present and blossom itself into your life. And I want you to obsess over those experiences, and I want you to fixate yourself on those experiences, because you are deserving and you are worthy. And with that, we end off my first podcast of 2022 Reflections. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for coming in and chatting and chilling and vibing with me. Comment down below definitely what you would like to see. I definitely want to do some travel vlogs and definitely some more podcasts in the near future. What topics would you guys like me to talk about? And with that being said, peace, love.